Well, Nick, did you take any solace out of the last quarter? Or...
No, we were quite poor all day.
What was the issues you saw at Gatland tonight?
Where do you want to start? We were comprehensively beaten by a very, very good football side. You know, unfortunately, we just haven't. When we lose too many of our players that play vital roles, we really needed others to stand up, and we had. You know, I take my hat off to blokes like Rowe and White. You know, both those boys have taken great steps to stay at the football club because they're the boys I was looking at under scrutiny. Can they stand up and hold up against a good side? Rowe got cleaned up there for 15 minutes, but you know, players like that, Doherty comes in the side, did a reasonable job, but unfortunately from there on in, it was really quite poor. You know, the stats will show, they show 16 less, a few more marks. Clearances, not a hell of a lot of difference, but reality was we were a mile off them.
What about the tackles? Do you take much notice of those 49 tackles? Is that something you get into your players about?
No, it's not something I get in my players about, no.
But what, 17 less or something, Collingwood, even though they'll probably take more of the ball?
Statement?
Yeah. So you don't
well, they're stats that you've just said to me. I'll need to look at that.
Kade Simpson made a comment before about your players sort of withdrawing into their shells after the early period. Has that been a recurring theme before your losses?
I think it's. I'm glad he said that. It's not necessarily over the top, but it's certainly a trait that needs to be addressed. And I think that under those circumstances, we need to just go through scenarios and just see where we really are with when the heat's on, who can stand up.
Does that involve more change, more players coming into the team and some own issues?
Well, I don't know whether we've got a lot of players that are available at the moment. That's it at the moment. You know, we've lost a lot of first choice, if you like, first choice players. Unfortunately, our depth is a lot of by choice. You know, there's a lot of players that have moved on from last year, and we've got a lot of young kids in. So therefore, are they ready to play? The short answer to that is not now. We expect that they will get, you know, blooded in the reserves and be available, but we're not in a position where we can start picking our 31st player and think that he's going to make a massive difference. We're looking at, you know, that 31st player may be a player that needs time. So under the circumstances, we've picked, and we will always pick the best possible side. You know, we're not going to be challenged on what would I say, picking to give experience. We're going to pick the best side for our supporter group, and if we think the best side is someone who's played, and I'm not using Scotland's example in regard to his abilities, but a 250 odd player to say Cripps who's played 2 games, well, we'll go the players in the best form or who can have the biggest impact, because we don't want to. You know, we're not going to close off the year. We want to keep putting the best possible side out there. Now, clearly, that side was very short of what Collingwood gave us today. Very short. You know, at the end of the day, probably the last goal summed up a lot of things.
Do you reckon there's many sides that can match their depth and quality of midfield?
Well, they've got a great depth over at the football club. You know, their depth goes a long, long way. It's not just the midfield. So that's why they're a top 4 side at the moment, and they're every right to think they should be a top 4 side.
Sorry, will Wade and Carazzo just sort of precautionary with their backs?
Oh, well, they just couldn't play.
How far short of 100% stays at the moment?
Oh, he's getting there.
He's what, 70, 80%?
Oh, I can't put a figure on him. We're not a. You know, how can you put figures on those things?
Where's Kane Lucas at with his footy? He subbed him half time after 6 touches.
Half time?
Just after half time.
No, I don't think it was just after half time.
What did you make of his performance tonight?
Well, he had plenty of friends that didn't perform. But I think you better get your figures right. is a long way short of half-time, longer than half-time.
With such a big gap between your best and worst this season, is it hard to sort of get a feel where your team sort of is at? Or
Well, you're right. You know, the consistency level is the thing. As I spoke to the boys before the game, is that, you know, sides that want to perform have to play at a consistent level, and not just over the course of either the course of the game or the course of the season. You know, good football sides maintain a good consistency, and you get beaten like this, and someone might say aberration, and you say, well, yeah, that's right, because we're a good football side, but we're not there. We can't say this is an aberration. This unfortunately has happened 2 or 3 times or 4 times this year, where we just haven't been as competitive as we need to be in the crunch games. And it doesn't matter who you're playing. You know, we got just as badly beaten by a side that was second last, I think, or third last year in Melbourne. And nothing against Melbourne, but they beat us like this. It's a different scoreline, different result in terms of points for and points against, but very similar traits. So our consistency is one of the things that I spoke about pre-match, is good sides don't go and beat Footscray, who are a good football side, or Western Bulldogs, then come and beat West Coast and fight back from behind, and then come to quarter time and we played like we did at quarter time. And it was 7 shots to 3, we scored the first goal. So, you know, we've got some work to do. We know that.
Or is it about concentration? I mean, just not
I'd like to think that is the only cause. Then we can start to address that, but it goes deeper than that. Like, there's the hardest, you know, the hardest side to play against, or the hardest coach to play against, or coach against, is the side that's got the best side. If they've got the best side, the great wins is when you coach against a side that is better than you and you win. They're the great moments that you remember. If you look at the side and you go, well, you know, this is touch and go, you'd like to think you can win that game. And you've got to say, well, we've got a special effort out of someone, or someone's kicked 4 goals or saved 4 goals. You know, our side right now has got passengers. We cannot afford not to have good contributors right across the board in a consistent fashion. And at the moment, we have, I couldn't put a figure on the number, but we have players that just don't or can't give that consistency. And therefore, you know, it's like a where you get concertinaed up and then they spread, or you get you take one good player out, the next one jumps up. Like the first quarter, I thought Scotland did very well on beams, albeit the fact that we were 3 or 4 goals down. And the next quarter, you do a job on this bloke, but he jumps up, and you do a job. You know, as I say, White and Rowe to me today have jumped the queue to stay at the football club because they play with heart and soul.
But given what you said before about some young guys not being ready and injuries, I guess there'll be guys who probably don't deserve to necessarily keep a spot who might end up keeping.
Well, that's always, you know, the AFL football is going to be like that when you've got 18 sides and you haven't got 18 by 40 players that are great players. You know, if there's a concentration of players, you can have more good footballs. But you know, it's an unfair thing, because when a side like Carlton, in the position we're at, we are trying to regenerate our list, and by regenerating your list, you take some heavy falls. You know, the crux of our recruitment last year, I have no doubt our recruitment panel got it right. We went 3 players from other clubs who've, Daisy didn't go well today, but he's been a good contributor. Everett's been a good contributor, and Doherty has been, unfortunately, had a few issues. He lost his dad and a few other bits and pieces, but he showed that he can play football. Then we drafted 3 good kids who we think are going to be pretty good. Then we drafted our rookie draft. We went really young, but we got an extra ruckman just to back up our ruckman. Then we went international. So we really did do all the things that you tick the box about. But the international players, for instance, they're going to take some time. The rookies, you're going to sort through those and decide who may come up on your list. The 3 kids that you pick, I've never seen a kid yet get you into the finals or not get you into the finals. So therefore, the expectation of those is minimal this year. They shouldn't play any more than 15 games collectively, whether it be practice matches, VFL or AFL. It's just too much for them. So you don't want to kill the kids, so you will keep generating and give players an opportunity. Because at the end of the year, the facts are that every football club will look at their list, and we're going to look at our list, and we're going to keep trying to regenerate the list. And as I say, if that word you use consistency, if Rowe and White can continue to be consistent players, they're real bonuses for us. They're not going to be probably get 3 votes from umpires or media or whatever the case may be, but if they're steady players, then you love them. I mean, they've both got massive hearts, so that's the first criteria. Secondly, they've got a bit of speed. Third, your word, concentration. Today and the previous week, and I think Whitey might have played the previous week to that, they've shown great concentration. And you're right, that's an art in itself. So, you know, we might have found 2 players that early in the season I didn't know we had. I was always going to play them to see, but now what we want to do is to see players that you expect more from be far more consistent, far more caring. Understand that we've got to get there, you know.
Mick, Daisy, you working backside off tonight. It was just one of those nights. I think things didn't quite come off.
You're at the same game as me. Thank you.